Today case is on IPT, treatment for TB, treatment prophylaxis. So as I was saying that it is a very fatal combination, and if you have HIV, there are 29 times more chances of you getting the active TB than your non-HIV counterpart in the same country. So it is a very important discussion that we are going to do today. And not only that, when we sit in the center and when we sit in the clinics and what co-management problems that we have, it's the pill burden or be it drug interaction. So it is a very difficult situation to treat at times. So as because of that, keeping that in mind, as they say that prevention is always better than cure. So today we are going to talk about how can we prevent our HIV patients from getting TB. And then one of the greatest weapon in that armamentarium is our treatment prophylaxis for TB. So we are going to talk about that, and I'm sure all of us are going to learn a lot today from our experts and our each other's experiences. Next, going to the next step, and I'm going to invite Ms. Bimin Raja, who's a counselor at ART Plus Center at District Papampore, Arunachal Pradesh. Please now present your case, share the screen and present your case. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Bamin Ripa. I'm counselor ARTC Arunachal Pradesh, Nahalagan, and here my case is about the side effect of isoniazid. Side effect of isoniazid, and many of the patients they are not willing to take this isoniazid because of all those kind of side effects like skin rashes or fatigue, nausea, and all those things. And actually, I want to know about the exact side effect of this IPT. Our doctor have also not very acquainted ideas about the side effect. So I have to tell all the patients so that they can take this medicine freely without any hesitation. No? So that's why just I want to know the side effect or proper what would be the side effect of this isoniazid. That's all. And this patient is actually this active patient. She is taking her ARV regularly, and adherence is almost 100. Always maximum her adherence is 100, and these days she is doing very well, and her health is also good, and viral load is also not detectable as per recent test. No? And her CD4 count is also rising these days, like recent CD4 date is 308. In compare to her baseline was 83. No, baseline was 83. In compare to that, this test her CD4 is also very much improving. And right now, actually, she don't have any complaint right now. But many of these IPT patients, after taking some medicine for 1 or 2 months, they refuse to take again, and they feel so many hesitant, and they feel a burden to take this medicine. No? So that's why I just wanted to know about the clear and what will be the side effect of this IPT. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Raman. Thank you. And it is indeed very encouraging that you took keen interest and you saw that what problems we are having at field level. That if somebody is not able to take is overthinking or is not able to take the side effect, they are not going to continue the drugs. So this is something which is a field level very common problem. And so this is a very important point that you have taken up. And thank you for sharing the case around that. Because it's very important to know the side effects. If you counsel the patient beforehand that these are the minor side effects, or these are that you can still be able to handle the patient's query concerns and queries much better. So this was very good, very nice of you to share this case with us, and your why you want to this. I'm sure you'll be enlightened at the end and knowing will be in a much better position to know about the side effects and the rationale behind the IPT. So just to summarize the case, this is a 53-year-old female whom I guess ART and ATT started way back in 2013. So HIV must have been diagnosed during the time she was diagnosed tuberculosis. And after that, she was well, and she has 3-4 counts also rising, and viral load is also okay, not detectable. But in 2018, sorry, she took an IPT, which she completed, but she had a lot of side effects, as you said. So you are saying that there is adherence problem and because of the side effects. So that's why you want to know the more rational and more scientific rationale and know more about the side effects of IPT and how to convince the patient. Yes, thank you. That's a wonderful thought.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So with that, I would like to now invite our expert. So please, Dr. Sudarshan, please, can you please share your slide and can you have with that, sir, please?
Okay. Should I just start my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me share. Okay. My slide is visible. My slide is visible. Please respond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. First of all, I must very much thankful to the organizer giving me opportunity to this platform. It is a very nice platform to see many of our colleagues and to a forum where particularly both tuberculosis as well as HIV. And second, of course, thank you very much, ma'am, Dr. Ananya madam, and as well as Dr. Anuradha madam giving me opportunity to this platform. Particularly this presentation based in TB preventive therapy in PLHA. My presentation will be roughly, it will take say 20 to 30 minutes. So my outline of this presentation, I want to touch upon particularly few points about the indication of TB preventive therapy. What are the contraindication? What are the drug or regimen we commonly use or supposed to be used in as a preventive therapy, and some of possible side effect of preventive therapy, and some of drug-drug interaction related to preventive therapy as well as antiretroviral therapy. You see, basically the rationality of any preventive therapy, particularly as regard to tuberculosis is concerned. In preventive therapy, it protects against the progression of latent TB infection to active disease. As you know, the majority of disease of TB mainly due to endogenous, the reactivation. Particularly this preventive therapy protect this endogenous reactivation, I mean to say latent TB infection to active disease. Simultaneously, it has also prevent the TB reinfection even after post-exposure to open case of TB. That means this also having effective against exogenous infection. Particularly this preventive therapy reduces the overall risk of tuberculosis by 60 to 90%. These are the rationality. Why? Based on some evidence. This is the one of the meta-analysis Cochrane review. It has been seen that based on this analysis, the objective of study was to determine the effectiveness of TB preventive therapy in reducing the active disease, particularly in HIV population. They have found that relative risk, if you see the graph, our forest plot graph, you can see based on INH, particularly INH preventive therapy, the relative risk come down overall 0.67, particularly overall population. In tuberculosis, in tuberculin positive individual, about 0.36, and as well tuberculin negative individual, about 0.86. I mean to say, the relative risk is less if we are giving prophylaxis to prevent active disease. So overall, there are roughly around say 33% decrease the risk of active TB, whereas in tuberculosis, in tuberculin positive individuals, the decreased risk of active TB about say more than say 64% like that. So in that particular review study, they have also effective given that efficacy of, they have tested the different regimen, like not only INH, but also INH with rifampicin, INH with the other pyrazinamide and so and so. Based on their result, they have like multi-drug regimen were much more likely to require discontinuation of treatment due to adverse effect. This is also all regimenal equally effective, but due to multi-drug regimen, problem with multi-drug regimens, chances of discontinuation of treatment or default is more likely. And also one third point, they have pointed out that 6-month regimen, particularly INH, was almost equal to the 12-month regimen monotherapy as regard to preventive is concerned. So based on this, they have INH is a quite effective regimen for 6 months, particularly for 6 months as a prophylaxis. Next question arises frequently, many of our colleagues in mind, whether INH prophylaxis can increase the resistance. Yes, INH prophylaxis, IPT does not promote any INH resistance when used to treat particularly latent TB infection. Because based on the previous study, it has been said, what is the importance between the latent TB infection versus active disease? In latent TB infection is very, very possible. Bacillus load is very, very less. That's why, as you know, if the bacillus load is high, then the chances of mutant variety is more, means resistant chance is more. As because in latent infection, bacillary load is very, very low. That's why chances of develop resistance is very less. But important things is whenever we are plan to give the prophylaxis therapy, we have to rule out the active TB disease. That's why we need to regular follow up the case to find out the active disease based on symptoms. Third point, I also point out that whenever we are approaching the case of a tuberculosis with HIV, we should offer rapid molecular DSD test. Next thing is, what is the evidence? Whether any evidence is there? Yes, this is the concrete evidence. They have seen the tuberculosis outcome and drug susceptibility in individual exposed to INH preventive therapy in high HIV prevalence setting. Particularly this author, the author conclude in their article that TB disease among the mostly HIV infected population just previously exposed to IPT had a treatment outcome typical for their setting and similar prevalence of INH resistance to background. That's why they have given the recommendation, the concern about the generating drug resistance should not be impending implementation of IPT. Who are the target population, particularly in PLH individuals? So those individuals having HIV positive, particularly adult with children more than 12 months. If an infant less than 12 months with HIV and with a history of contact with active disease, active TB disease, that means more than 1 year population, we can give INH prophylaxis. Less than 1 year population, we can give INH prophylaxis or any form of preventive therapy, those having contact with active TB disease. These are the proposed algorithm. Everybody might have been exposed by their time. Those groups, particularly having person having HIV positive, first of all, we have to go the symptoms. 4S, as you know, 4 symptoms: current cough, fever, weight loss, night sweat. Then people may ask, why the 4 symptoms? These 4 symptoms? Because it has been seen that these 4 symptoms sensitivity is very high. That means based on these 4 symptoms, we can identify the active tuberculosis disease very nicely. If these 4 symptoms present, then we should investigate in the line of active TB disease in form of, say, molecular test or so and so. If these 4 symptoms are negative, then only we have to think of whether any contraindication of preventive therapy is present or not. If contraindication is there, then we should before the preventive therapy. If there is no contraindication, then we should go for the preventive therapy. The final bottom line is, in each and every case, whenever we have given the preventive therapy, we have to follow up the case actively so that we can find the active TB disease during the time of prophylaxis. Then think is already discussed particularly. One important things I want to highlight here. Yes, chest X-ray ideally should be done, but not mandatory. Chest X-ray to be done particularly to exclude any abnormal radiological, those are suggestive of tuberculosis. But if the area where chest X-ray is not done, we should not bound to, it is not a mandatory. We should go by the also based on the history as well as some molecular tests like CBNet or TrueNet, so and so. What are the contraindications? That is important because as I have told you my algorithm slide, we have to exclude the most important contraindication again, active TB disease, because we are planned to give the prophylaxis. We are not treating the disease. That's why in each and every case, once we are planning to give the prophylaxis, we have to exclude the TB disease first. Second, about hepatitis, both acute and as well as chronic, and concurrent use of other hepatotoxic drugs. Say, for example, as you know, nevirapine, NNRT, one of the most important hepatotoxic ART. We should avoid this group of drugs simultaneously. The person having regular and heavy alcohol consumption likely to be developed hepatitis. That's why it should be avoided. And the person having signs and symptoms of peripheral neuropathy like persisting tingling, numbness, and burning sensation, because as we are giving the most common drug INH, this INH can cause neuropathy again. That's why these are the contraindications. And some allergic or known hypersensitivity reaction to any drug particularly, that should be also contraindicated. But important point I want to highlight here, pregnancy is not at all a contraindication of prophylaxis. Second point, previous history of tuberculosis is not a contraindication for tuberculosis preventive therapy. Then what are the pre-treatment assessment? These are the usual headings. Suppose before starting the prophylaxis, we should know some history, personal history about the drug allergy and the history of some comorbidity, because at times what happens, some disease might be more prone for drug-induced side effects. Say for already I have told you, suppose a patient having a chronic alcoholic. In that case, definitely in INH will be more harmful to the patient. That's why we should take the proper history and history of medication and some laboratory finding. Not necessarily always, but some group of patients, particularly say patient having some liver disease or history of regular alcohol or chronic liver disease, this group of patients we need to do the LFT just to identify the liver enzyme is within the three times of the upper limit or within the 5 times of upper limit. Because if a patient having enzymes, particularly SGPT, SGOT, more than 3 times, even though if patient is symptomatic, or in asymptomatic individual having enzyme more than 5 times of upper limit of normal, we should again, these are more prone for hepatitis. Regimen, there are 2 most common regimen at present is 6H, means INH daily for 3 months. Second alternative regimen, of course, presently not widely available, but till availability of the second regimen 3HP, means INH and rifampicin. 3 means for 3 months, but this regimen is weekly regimen, weekly once, particularly more than 2 years. Of course, not all of the India 3HP is not widely available. Till availability of the 3HP, we are using 6H, means 6 months of INH daily. These are the doses. As you know, INH ideally more than 10 years or older population dose 5 milligram per kg weight per day, maximum dose 300 milligram. Whereas the age below 10 years weight 10 milligram per kg per day. And these are the table right side. We can see these are the table particularly different weight band of dose regimen of rifampicin, rifampicin and INH, 2 to 14 years and more than 14 years, so and so. But just one point I want to highlight here. Even in rifampicin as well as INH, maximum dose limit here, you can see 900 milligram of INH and rifampicin also roughly around 900 milligram of INH. Next, about the comparison of two drugs. Yes, we are using 6H, but 6H is quite safe and in pregnancy. And about role of 3HP in pregnancy, little bit not at present, not well known. And toxicity more seen, particularly most common toxicity we will discuss later on. Next part is pyridoxine. What is the role of pyridoxine? As you know, the most commonest drug, INH, we are giving as a prophylaxis. So INH, one of the important side effect is polyneuropathy. But to this polyneuropathy is prone particularly some group of individuals like immunocompromised host, diabetes, pregnancy, chronic kidney disease, HIV, and so and so. That's why to prevent this prone group of, we should give prophylaxis pyridoxine to prevent the neuropathy, particularly for children 10 milligram per day, whereas in adult in PLHA groups 50 milligram per day. But whenever we are using as a treatment purpose, treatment means those persons having proven case of INH induced neuropathy, the dose of pyridoxine is 100 to 200 milligram per day. These are the possible adverse effects to INH as well as rifampicin. Possible adverse effect can be divided in two types, whether it is a known adverse effect and second is a rare adverse effect. Known means very much common. Rare means very rare. So in INH, you can see that first is asymptomatic elevation of liver enzymes. One point I want to highlight here. Up to three times raised up serum enzyme, either SGOT or SGPT, is tolerable. It is usually patient are asymptomatic. Next, hepatitis, peripheral neuropathy, skin rash, sleepiness, and lethargy. Very rare side effect of INH is arthralgia, anemia, convulsion, so and so. About rifampicin, rifampictin's side effect is almost equal to the like rifampicin. That's why the commonest side effect of the rifampicin like GI intolerance and flu-like syndrome, hepatitis, so and so. Next question arises, how should you manage the adverse event? This is the most important part. Before we go for the management, some of the basic principle of the management of adverse events due to INH or so-called any other 3HP and so. First of all, we have to see whether this side effect is how much severe it is. Is it mild, moderate, or severe? Mild, moderate, severe is again depends upon the type of symptoms. Later on, we will discuss that further. Next thing is how serious the event. Whether this side effect needs hospitalization or these side effect events need some so much life-threatening condition or so and so. Next, about what is the immediate management. Immediate management could be 3 to 4 types. For example, if it is a mild, can be managed by reassurance or symptomatic relief. Or if it is a moderate to severe, we have to hold the drug and we have to discontinue the drug and so on and so. Simultaneously, whenever we're thinking about any side effect, simultaneously we have to see what are the other possible cause of the side effect. May not be due to drug itself, may be due to the disease itself, or may be due to the other drug. because as you know, the PLHA patients usually take in multiple drugs, not only INH prophylaxis, but also ART, as also some fluconazole, antifungal, as well as the cotrimoxazole, so and so. So simultaneously, we have to think whether possible side effect whatever happens due to other drug or other disease itself or not. Then what will be our next step? Next step, once we are identify the culprit, then we have to whether it is a possible to the continue the same drug, or we have to restart, or we have to substitute the drug if it is a serious side effect. Let us come to side effect one by one. First and most important is hepatitis. Drug-induced hepatitis, before we stamp it is a drug-induced hepatitis, in each and every case, we have to identify whether other possible cause of hepatitis is present or not. So, for example, it could be due to viral hepatitis also, or it could be due to other drug. That second thing is whether it is a patient is symptomatic or asymptomatic. Why it is important? Because suppose a patient on INH prophylaxis and patient's liver enzyme more than 5 times, although patient is asymptomatic, still we have to stop the drug. Like that also, if patient is symptomatic and the liver enzyme more than 3 times of the upper limit, then if patient is symptomatic, again we have to stop that drug. That's why we need to know whether patient is symptomatic or asymptomatic. Then other signs of hepatitis is present or not. As you know, like icterus or some more dangerous sign of hepatitis, like say hepatic encephalopathy, like severe vomiting, say altered sensorium, so and so. This needs again immediate attention. That's why we need to know the signs. Next, about the some of the feature which already I have discussed, particularly clinical features of concern, particularly protracted vomiting and some of the altered sensorium, which impending to the acute liver failure. This needs immediate attention in form of hospitalization as well as immediate discontinuation of medication. Next, about the skin rash. See, skin rash is one of the not that much common, but common. Skin rash, we can stratify it whether it is a mild, moderate, or severe. Important thing is here, any form of skin rash, particularly in INH, we have to see whether involvement of mucocutaneous junction is present or not. Because the mucocutaneous involvement is one of the serious side effect of skin rash. We call it is a Stevens-Johnson syndrome. If patient having or any exfoliated dermatitis present or not. If this form of skin rash is treated as a severe, moderate to severe form of skin rash, in that case, we need to stop the drug. Then we have to re-challenge the drug one by one or a smaller dose. Say, for example, INH, we can suppose a patient having mild skin rash, only say maculopapular rash, we can give some antihistaminic. We can, patient maybe, rash may be subsided. But if a patient having Stevens-Johnson syndrome or mucocutaneous junction involvement, or patient having severe exfoliated dermatitis, in that case, we have to stop the drug. Then we have to try the challenge drug in very low doses. Say, for example, 50 milligram in INH, 3 days, followed by again see whether rash is reappear or not. Based on that, we can plan whether we will continue the drug, we will stop the drug. Next, about the peripheral neuropathy. You know, as I have discussed, the dose of main treatment is pyridoxine. We have to stop the drug and we have to start the pyridoxine about 100 to 200 milligram per day. Rest GI symptoms, lethargy, these are a very minor symptoms, can be managed by symptomatic treatment. About post-treatment is an important part because the patient previously treated for tuberculosis, post-treatment prophylaxis consider. In view of that, 5 to 7 times higher risk of recurrent TB among PLHA and nearly 90% those were a reinfection. Means already the case presented by Bhamini madam, that so that the patient already exposed to already taken anti-TB drug, still prophylaxis is given. Yes, this is indicated. because already patient taken anti-tubercular drug in 2013 and prophylaxis given 2018. Yes, it is indicated because these are the evidence. This is one of the important study. You see that the title, efficacy of secondary INH preventive prophylaxis, means a secondary INH preventive means patient already taken anti-tubercular drug for pulmonary tuberculosis or tuberculosis. Once patient develop, again, we are suspect preventing the reinfection. That's why we have to give INH as a prophylaxis. This based on this study, the objective of the study was to know the efficacy of the secondary preventive therapy against TB. A result of the study, the author pointed out that overall incidence of recurrent TB was reduced by 55% among men who received IPT compared to who did not. That means even after completion of ATT, we have to give INH as a secondary prophylaxis to reduce the recurrence or recurrent TB. This study has shown that 55% reduced chance. And the incident rate of 8.6 per 100 person year among IPT versus without IPT about 19.1 100 per year. This is a beautiful study. Not only this is an old study, but here this is the recent published in Lancet Journal 2020. In this journal, again, they have shown the comparative, it's a randomized control trial, the effect of post-treatment INH preventive recurrent tuberculosis. They have seen that about recurrence rate 1.4 per 100 person year among the HIV positive patient, those having received INH versus those having not received INH as prophylaxis 7.8. That means you see the relative risk percentage about say roughly around more than 80%. That means say if you are giving INH prophylaxis, those person have already received ATT, chance of recurrence of TB less, about roughly around 78, 82%. 82% chance of less having a recurrent tuberculosis, those having taking INH prophylaxis. This is one of the important, they have studied, they have a mathematical model. You see this graph, you can see the first graph. They've compared the tuberculosis incidence based on, this is one of the study from South Africa. They have taken the, at that point of time, the present, that prevalence of the tuberculosis, mortality rate, and the morbidity rate. Based on that, they have created a mathematical model. If you are giving the INH as a secondary prophylaxis, what will happen? You can see this graph. You can first graph that about the incidence of tuberculosis is decreased, quite decreased if you give targeted active finding annually plus secondary INH prophylaxis. Not only incidence, but also prevalence, but also tuberculosis related mortality. That means INH secondary prophylaxis can reduce TB incidence, prevalence, as well as death. These are the drug-drug interaction, but one point I want to highlight here about ART drugs. You can see this graph table. INH inhibit the metabolism so that ritonavir and efavirenz blood level will increase if you will give INH with ritonavir or efavirenz. Like that also, rifamycin derivative or rifampicin accelerate the metabolism so that they can decrease the blood level, particularly protease inhibitor. If you are giving protease inhibitor with rifamycin derivative, the chances of decrease blood level is quite less. That's why these drugs are, that's why the dictum is protease inhibitor usually should not be given with rifampicin based any regimen. But important points about the drug-drug interaction, rifampicin can be co-administered with efavirenz without any dose adjustment. And rifampicin as a TPT regimen should not be co-administered with neither with protease inhibitor nor with nabirapin, because again, important factor is due to the liver toxicity. Both nabirapin as well as protease inhibitor can increase the liver toxicity due to rifampicin. And INH impact on metabolism, particularly two retroviral, antiretroviral, like I have already explained about titinavir as well as efavirenz. And not only as because already discussed by Ms. Pamina, that the important part is counseling, because TPT needs complete counseling, because initiation as well as completion is critical. So we have to gain the confidentially to the patients to the merit of importance of prophylaxis, so that patient can understand better way how to complete what is the importance of prophylaxis. Not only the dose, but also the regularity as well as the duration of treatment. We have to give the complete information. Simultaneously, we have to give some salient picture of the adverse effect, so that we can healthcare worker can identify it easily and to refer the patient to doctor or can manage by them. About monitoring, whenever during the time of IPT, we have to monitor, active monitoring required. One important part is about the monitoring of active TB disease. Means once patient is on preventive therapy, we need to know we need to frequently search for the four symptoms, as I have told you: fever, weight loss, fever, cough, or night sweat, so and so. And also simultaneously, we have to monitor about the side effect and the pregnancy, breastfeeding, or contraception. But important things also, TPT is efficacious if more than 80% dose consumed within the 133% duration of the regimen. That means, what we mean that later on I will explain. Here, this slide is a very busy slide, but just I want to highlight one important point. What to do, already many of our workers might be knowing. Just one of the important guidelines, whether particularly 6H regimen, but whether it is less than 6 weeks or more than 6 weeks. If interrupted less than 6 weeks, we can continue the drug, the rest of the drug. If more than 2 weeks, then we have to think whether 80% dose consumed or not. If 80% is not consumed, then we have to think of the restart of drug. Like that also in 3HP regimen, whether time duration is more important, about 3 weeks, 3 doses. If interrupted, say more than 3 weeks, then definitely more than 3 doses, definitely that means we have to restart the again regimen and so on. So these are the some outcome, probably need not to mention, everybody might have been known. Just I want to highlight here one point, because 80% of 6H should continue, should be completed within recommended time. But in 3HP, 90% recommended dose should be completed. That's the important thing. So my take-home message, particularly this point of time here, TPT prevent the latent TB infection from developing to active disease, and also prevent post-exposure reinfection. TPT has to be offered after ruled out active TB disease on basis of 4 TB symptom screening and follow-up investigation if necessary. Efficacy of TPT is enhanced when co-administered with ART. Thank you so much for patience here. Then over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an excellent presentation. We have so much to learn from your experience, and plus you gave us so much scientific evidence and rationale behind the TPT that we must follow. But in all the slides, it was reflecting your experience as well. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I now open the house for discussion. Anybody has any doubts, any experience they want to share, or they want to ask the expert, please, this is an opportunity. Please feel free to ask. Anybody who has any experience and like recurrent problem they have facing in giving IPT to patients, you can ask the expert. This is an opportunity. I will also pull up the post-test poll. So there's nothing much left to be said. Sir has given a very detailed presentation. And I must request all of you to go back again to this presentation and on our initiative channel, because it is so good and clear that we'll always learn every time we go back to this presentation. So
some question might have been posted in chat box, so we can address this.
Yes. Last, there is
no question right now in the chat box, but we will request the participants to
Please.
either ask the question by unmuting or please put your question in the chat box.
You can raise your hand and thank you. So just to, sir has explained it very clearly. So just a few take-home points from us, our at NIT RD would be like, when we are actually, sir, on the field and we are treating patients, we can never be 100% sure whether the patient has TB or not TB. Just especially in an HIV case who is immunocompromised and he doesn't show much of the symptoms. So, but still, this 4S is a very, very good tool, and as sir said, that it has a very high sensitivity. And high sensitivity means that at the prevalence rate of 5% of TB and HIV, it has a very high negative predictive value, which is 98.5%. So when we see a case of HIV and we are thinking of giving whether he or she has TB or not, and we are using the 4S complex for 4S screening tool for that person, if that screening tool comes out to be negative, that means it has a very high negative predictive value. That means it doesn't have TB. So that's a very good tool to use. Okay, we have another question in the chat box. Dr. Anuradha, can you please say the question?
The question is, from Dr. B.A.V. Prasad, can we repeat TPT after TB infection even after giving TPT first time before the TB infection?
Very good question. Question is exactly the patient already taken INH prophylaxis.
So not treatment taken, the prophylaxis taken. And again, do you need to repeat the TPT or is it just once in lifetime?
Yes, very at present, actually very difficult to answer this question because patient already taken TPT once, again patient already taken ATT also once. Particularly like this study already, whatever the case already presented by Upasana and presented by Dr. Bamin, I think. What is your opinion? I don't know exactly. My thought is already because patient is taken INH prophylaxis, second have taken already ATT. But the important thing is again, particularly this group of patients, we need to very much vigil about active screening of the appearance of any symptoms of active disease.
Yes, sir. And sir, not even 4S. Sometimes in being active screening, we should even go beyond 4S. Like there was sometimes there was a talk that there should be a 5S of a lymph node, especially in an HIV patient, because most of the times it's we miss a lymph node, and that's a very, very easy way to access diagnosis for tuberculosis. So we should not miss on lymph nodes and some clinical examination. We should go beyond. We should, in this intensified case finding, should be very, very. You should put consensus efforts to look for the clinical signs and symptoms as well, and not just restrict to those 4S. So if there's a lymph node and you can find the CBNAT, TB diagnosis from there, it doesn't come to that 4S, but you are already ruling out TB. So that's what you are very right in saying that. Yes, sir.
Exactly. 4S, exactly. 4S mean particularly to identification of pulmonary tuberculosis. So as you know, in HIV population, extra pulmonary tuberculosis is also comparatively more compared to non-HIV population. That's why definitely we have to be very vigilant about extra pulmonary tuberculosis.
Yes, sir. So there's another question, sir.
There's another question, sir. Is TPT safe for breastfeeding mother and pregnant mother? This is from our case presenter, Bhavin.
Yes, already I have described. Pregnancy is not at all a contraindication of TPT. And I also, in particularly INH is very much safe in pregnancy, both pregnancy as well as breastfeeding mother also.
Thank you, sir. I request all the participants.
So there's one more question by ART Center. Yes, you can unmute and ask your question to the experts.
So you can unmute yourself. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I am from ART Center, Dr. O.P. Alagwala from Shillong.
Yes, sir. Welcome,
Yes,
sir.
Yeah, see, there are some contraindication has been given, and one of the rare side effect has been told to be convulsions. So what we have experienced, those person who have been taking anticonvulsive drug and given IPT, they develop severe convulsions. So I think we can take the history of before giving IPT, we can take the history whether they are suffering from convulsion or not. And if they are suffering from convulsion and they are on the anticonvulsive drug, I think we should be careful about giving IPT. That is just because one of our patients who was on IPT and was on anticonvulsive, after starting IPT, patient developed severe convulsions and we have to hospitalize him and we have to do. So that is just my thought. I should present it here when we are discussing about it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. One important thing is definitely we need a proper history before starting the INH. And, yes, about some anticonvulsant drug also having interaction with rifamycin derivative. But yes, very rare side effect like INH psychosis also there. But yes, but in that case, definitely we have to more cautious about. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Nice.
And DTO madam from NDMC, ma'am, you have a question. I think you were typing something. Can you please unmute yourself for your query?
Yeah, my query was, what should be the upper limit of the liver function tests in a pregnant or a lactating woman in case her LFT is deranged
Yes.
while she's on TPT?
Yeah. I think is that particularly, yes, LFT is necessary. This is pregnancy, one of group of population where we need to do LFT before starting INH prophylaxis. Ideally, if in pregnancy, again, if upper limit is more than up to 3 times is ideally safe. Up to 3 times is ideally safe.
Okay. And same applies for the pregnant women also?
Yes.
For the lactating women also?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But one important thing is this group of say population needs more active, vigilant about the side effect, particularly the liver derangement.
Yes, Sam, that was a very good practical question. One thing, sir, I would like to discuss with you is that when we start when the HIV patient comes to us and we have to start the IPT after ruling out the active TB, usually we give that 3-month ideal time before we start the IPT. So the rationale behind it is that obviously that the subclinical tuberculosis chances are lower after 3 months, and also the risk of neuropathy and hepatitis induced the hepatitis, that nevirapine induces or other drugs induces, that will be lower after 3 months. So you are then the more safer, you feel safer starting IPT after 3 months. So what's your comment on that, sir, would be? Like, we just don't start IPT just by ruling out. We give a time of 3 months after starting ART to start IPT.
Question is whether rationality behind
Yes, sir. We give
3
that
months.
3 months. So, what are your thoughts on that, sir? We usually take 3 months for the hepatotoxicity of ART to settle in. Also, if there's some subclinical tuberculosis, that will just manifest with the good ART being given. That will manifest in 3 months. So we generally give the time gap of 3 months before we start the IPT. So,
Yes,
sir,
that is a good trend also. That is a good trend also.
yes.
I agree, totally agree with the whatever the trend is.
Yes, sir. Instead of starting all the drugs together. So that is there. And so this IPT, it was a very good regimen. It is a very good regimen, but I think that long duration, that has been problematic, and their treatment completion rates were not up to the mark. They were 30 to 64%, and people were not completing the treatment because of the long duration and side effects. That's why we have these newer regimens like HP, which are like shorter duration, which have come up.
Yeah.
So, and it's indeed a privilege and pleasure that we at NITRD are also involved in the project of this targeted scale up of HP prophylaxis. So we'll be in one of the nodal centers for this scale up of HP. So maybe in future sessions of TPT, we'll be talking more about HP prophylaxis also, because we'll have our own experience. Yes, sir. We can, so with that, I would like Dr. Anuradha to tell the post-test answers.
Okay. So can you please close the poll? There's a feedback poll which will be coming on your screen. Please respond to that. The questions for the pre and post test were question number 1, as per the present guideline, which of the following is not a correct statement regarding contraindication of TB preventive therapy in PLHIVs? The first option was acute or chronic hepatitis. Second option is concurrent use of other hepatotoxic medications such as nevirapine. Third option, past history of TB and regular and heavy alcohol consumption. The correct answer to this was option C, that is past history of TB. And sir, I saw a slide exactly mentioning all these options in that slide. So if someone has viewed that slide, and then they will be able to answer this question appropriately in the post test. The second question was, which of the following is not a known adverse effect of INH for TB preventive therapy in PLHIVs? The options were hepatitis, joint pain, peripheral neuropathy, and sleepiness and lethargy. The correct answer to this question is option B, that is joint pains.
Yes, joint pain is a very rare side effect of INH, not a known side effect. It is a most common side effect of other anti-tubercular drug, but for INH is a very, very rare side effect. That's why the question was, this is a known side effect. It is not, but joint pain is a very, very rare side effect.
Right. So if you have read the question correctly, then you must have attempted it rightly also after the excellent session taken by Dr. Kothas. Thank you, sir, for such an excellent session.